Okay, we're in Ois Yud, and in Ois Yud, we're discussing the difference between, there's three levels that are discussed in Ois Yud. But L'maisa, there's really also a fourth level, which is not discussed in Ois Yud, which is interesting. The two basic levels of source of Emunah are Mazli Chazi and Etzem and Neshama. Okay, we know that. Good. Mazli Chazi, let's put that to the side. In the context of Etzem and Neshama, so we also just learned in our test that there's two levels of that. But really, we'd already learned that there's two levels of that, because relative to the level of Etzem and Neshama being revealed, Meisha Zan and Farnes Es Emunah, so Meisha Rabbeinu, it was all about Das, right? By Mordechai, it was all about Mesiras Nefesh. And then we learned in Eistes about a third level, Kosis Lamar. That's really a third level in Etzem and Neshama. So there's Mazli Chazi, Etzem and Neshama, that's when Moshe Rabbeinu brings Emunah into Das, Pnimius. That's Moshe Rabbeinu because there's no need for Mesiras Nefesh. Then there's Mordechai who brings it down. Well, actually, Mordechai is both levels, right? Because there's the two levels of Purim. Mordechai, the first level is the Kabbalah Satar at the time of the Gezerah, which is what we're calling Mesiras Nefesh. And then the even deeper level, which is now, we can call it Kasis Lamar, that's the Kabbalah Satar afterwards, because the Yidden were still Akate Avdei Achashverosh Anan, we're still servants of Achashverosh. And so therefore, we are crushed by virtue of the fact we're in Galus, not the situation in Galus, but the Etzem Metzias in Galus, the essential existence of Galus. Okay, so those are our four levels. We started with two. We now have four. Right? Okay. So at the beginning of Yud, the Rebbe explained, this is what we saw yesterday, the Rebbe explains that the level of Kosis Lamar is higher than the level of Mesiras Nefesh. And in order to explain that, a Inyan Hu, right, and we'll just start from Inyan Hu, which is the first line, which is we saw yesterday. We'll just go through the first 5 lines, which we saw yesterday quickly, and then get a running start. Because we're going to start with the level of Matan Torah, which is not Mesiras Nefesh, which is Mazli Chazi, relative to the Mesiras Nefesh of Purim. Inyan Hu, the Miatayim Alzeh, amongst the reasons, again, we're going to go through this quickly. Shiva Matan Torah Rakas Chola. Matan Torah was only the beginning. Heichalu Lasos. Ubimei Achashverosh, in the days of Achashverosh, Haishal Kabbalah. That was the complete acceptance of the Torah. Kiblu Yehudim Asher Chalu Lasos. Who? Kizeh Shigdimu Nasa Lenishma. That which they preceded Nasa Lenishma B'Matan Torah. Page Kuf Lamed Vav. Right? That Hayam Ibnei Shekofa Leim Har Kegigis, that's because the Eibishter held the mountain above them. And what's that all about in Pnimis Gilim Yilamayla? A tremendous revelation from above. Ubimei Achashverosh, Haisa Kabbalah Mitzad Atzma. The Kabbalah was Mitzad themselves. Min Lamatam. V'yesh Leimer. So we saw just the beginning of this yesterday. The Amun of the Israel, the Amun of the Yidden Mitzad Zeh, as a result of the fact that the Neshama Shalamayla Roya Elokus, that the Neshama sees Elokus, Emunah Shemitzad Siba, the Emunah that's the result of a reason, the reason being that my Neshama right now in Atzilus is seeing Elokus. So that aspect of Emunah, Hu Al Derech, that's similar to Shigdimu Nasa Lenishma. But Matan Torah, that's similar to Matan Torah. Why? Mitzad Gilui de Lamaila. That was all a function of a Gilui Milamaila. They saw Elokus and accepted the Torah. V'zeh should be Achashverosh, and the fact that in the reality that in the days of Achashverosh, Haisa Kabbalah Mitzad Atzmam, the Kabbalah was from themselves, was Milamata Lamaila, from below above. Who? That's key. As Nizgali his kashus belukus, it's revealed their connection elukush mitzad etzem and neshama. That's a function of etzem and neshama. His kashus atzmis, an essential connection. Shemitzad etzem etziyusum. That's a function of the essence of their being. So that's all review. Now, what's not review is explaining how Matan Torah is the level of Mazli Chazi and Achashverosh is the level of Mesiris Nefesh. But the details of those two levels, so that we already know. We've learned that at great length in the Mimer. The application of those two levels to those two events is really quite astounding. Okay, so Matan Torah is Mazli Chazi. Purim is Etzem. Now, there's two levels in Etzem, right? Now, there's really three levels in Etzem. There's Etzem, Moshe Rabbeinu brings it down into Das. There's Etzem, that is the source of Mesiris Nefesh. And there's Etzem, which is the source of that level that we're calling Kosis Lamar, that the Jew is, and is the highest expression, the Jew is crushed by virtue of the fact that they are in Golus, not the situation in Golus. That's Mesiris Nefesh. There's no Gezeres. Okay. Similar to that's basically our time now, right? We'll see. Obviously, in the recent past, we've put up with some great difficulties, but still relative to what Yidden have put up with in the past, it's still not as life-threatening to every Jew on the planet. Okay. Ubakratius yesi yesh lem. I was going to get into it in more detail. Shegam begilu etzem v'neshama. Also in the Gilu of Etzem and Neshama, Yeshnam Dugma Shnei Inyanim Hanal. There are really these two different levels. Now, that's an interesting thing to say, because how many levels in Etzem are there really? Did we just say? We said three. Right? The Rebbe is going to explain two. He's not going to explain the level of Das, which I understand. The whole beginning of the Mimer, there were those two levels, Das and Mesiris Nefesh. That was what the Rebbe talked about earlier in the Mimer. So he's Vav, right? So now all of a sudden the Rebbe pushes Das off to the side and is going to talk about those two levels that were revealed to us in Ois Tes, which is Mesiris Nefesh and Kosis Lamar. Those are our names for those two levels now. Mesiris Nefesh is the situation in Gullus produces the need for Mesiris Nefesh. Kosis Lamar is the situation in Gullus is just fine, but the etzem mitzias of Gullus, the essential existence of Gullus, causes the Jew to be crushed because he wants God to be revealed. Footnote 56 is going to talk about Das. Where does Das fit in there? Below the two of them, in between the two of them, higher than both of them? Don't know. We'll see. That's footnote 56.
I have a quick question. If Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who's bringing it down into Das, that's like the chiddush of Moshe Rabbeinu, so to speak. How is it possible that Matan Torah was only a level of Masli Chazi if Moshe Rabbeinu was the one who was catalyzing that?
Beautiful. Great question. I was going to answer that in footnote 56.
Okay.
Fair. Well done. There's different levels of Gili of Etzem. Is that some, we'll see, but is that some mamish misgala lamata? Or is etzem just that which allows for b'koyach ha'etzem, through the power of etzem, you bring about a state of nesa hafachim, that two opposites can exist in harmony, makif and panimi, which is maschazi, right?
So they aren't necessarily mutually exclusive.
What do you mean?
Meaning, like, they can exist at the same time without contradicting each other.
Which? What are those two?
Masli Chazi and Das.
Oh, exactly. How? B'koyach atzmus.
Okay.
Something beyond both can bring about the synthesis of both. Just like Yesh Mi'ayin. How do Yesh and Ayin exist together?
Right.
Oh, B'koyach atzmus. That Bri is B'koyach atzmus. That's all over Chassidus. Oh, Manyan. Okay. We'll see what they say. But you asked an amazing question. That's what the Rebbe's going to deal. Once the Rebbe talks about Das, then the Rebbe's going to talk about, okay, so then where does Das fit in all this? Right, we'll see. You're fair. Okay, so now the Rebbe is going to explain the two levels. The Gilu Etzem, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines down, page Kuf Lamed Vav. The Gilu Etzem in the Shama, Be'inyan Mesiris Nefesh. That makes an unbelievable diuk here. The Gilu Etzem in the Shama, Be'inyan Mesiris Nefesh. chiluk. In the revelation of Etzem and Neshama that produces self-sacrifice, Mesiras Nefesh, Yesh Lomer, shebenegei lekoiches hagiluyim, relative to the revealed powers of the soul, who kemei, it's like, and this font is all mitzad the fact that the Rebbe will circle things and underline things, etc., when the Rebbe is editing the mimer. Right, so the different fonts are a function of the Rebbe's editing. Shebenegeya, though I don't know whether the word font existed yet. Maybe it did, but I mean, none of us knew it. Shebenegeya lekeches hagiluyim hu kemei davar nosaf. It's like something extra, something imposed on me. Now, the Rebbe is going to bring an amazing example of that, and then we'll explain it. As we see in actuality, become anoshim with the number of people. And the Rebbe used to talk about this in Farbrengen and sometimes scream about this in Farbrengen. That when they were in a place, that there were decrees against the performance of Torah and mitzvahs, they exhibited unbelievable Mesiras Nefesh b'feil in actuality. They mamish put their life in danger for a number of years. Who was the simplest example? The Yidden who were Meiser Nefesh to keep connected to Yiddishkeit in the Soviet Union. And there were lots and lots of Jews like that. Unfortunately, most of them were killed in Stalin's camps, but some of them got out. But interesting enough, some of those Jews who got out, and this is what the Rebbe used to talk about in Farbrengen often, very passionately, and when they would come afterwards to countries where it was possible to involve themselves in Torah and mitzvahs, right, width, breadth, they're now living in New York, they're now living in Los Angeles, they're now living in Tel Aviv, they're now living in Yerushalayim. It's not so recognizable, the Mesiras Nefesh that was. They look like everyday guys. I understand, these people are Pashut superheroes. They were Mesiras Nefesh for 25 years to keep Yiddishkeit in Russia. And then they moved to Miami. You would never know. How can it be you never knew? These people experienced the revelation of Etzem and Neshama in their Veda for 25 years. You wouldn't know. An example closer to home, if you happen to be walking down Rehov Yafo and you see a 35-year-old guy, looks like any regular 35-year-old guy. 3 days ago, he was in Naza on the front lines. Recognizable? Well, looks like everybody else. Comes home, looks like everybody else. Down there, he's Pasha a superhero. These people are superheroes. Right? And comes out of Gaza, comes home for Shabbos, right? Maybe you daven in the shul that he's davening in. So, okay, Beseder, in the shul he's davening, everybody knows he's been in Gaza for the last month. Okay, Beseder. I mean, the guys inside. Obviously, the guys outside are also heroes, but I mean, the guys inside are Pashut putting their life on the line every day, and I honestly don't know how their parents are going to sleep at night. Maybe they're not.
I was about to say they probably.
Right. So okay. They're superheroes. They're Mercy Nefesh b'fayil mamish. They are ready to give up their lives for Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, for Yidden in the world. It's not recognizable when they're walking down the street of Yerushalayim 3 days later. Right? Go walk down the street now. Some of the people you see in the street, and this is something that hopefully people do appreciate. I'm talking to a very small group of people, and I don't think that any of you would be like this. So maybe yes, I don't know what people are like. But there are all sorts of people often from this place called Chutz La'aretz who have a rather condescending view of Israelis. They think they're inferior than they are. First of all, you're marshmallows and these guys are tough guys. I'm also one of those marshmallows. I was in the army, I never did anything serious. Right? Now, some of the people you see walking down the street, not all of them, some of them, some guy's 65. That guy's 65 when he was 25. He was fighting in Lebanon in 1982, doing things that were superhuman. Recognizable? No. No recognizable. He looks like a regular 65-year-old guy, right? And it might even be that he cut in front of you in line and you're annoyed at him. Right? Okay. But halal, it is important to note, and this is just a side note, but it's important. And I think I'm preaching. I hope I'm preaching to the converted, but you can send it further. Anyway, there's also the millions of people on YouTube. Most people in Chutz La'aretz, when they're 18 years old, they go to college, and they're coddled, and they're called the best people in the history of the universe. And they're the creme de la creme, and they're the educated elite, blah, 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 blah. An Israeli, most Israelis, when the ones who are butting in front of you in line, when they're 18 years old, what's happening to them? They're in basic training, and some moron is screaming at them 10 hours a day for 6 months. Okay, that's their initiation into adulthood. The initiation of most people outside, most Jews outside of Eretz Israel, is being coddled in a university, right? Taking 3 classes a semester and talking about how they're working hard. Seriously, your college students talking about how it's hard work. Oh, bemet, right? I know it happens to be that I know this because I travel around from college to college, right? I'm having a hard time finding colleges in session in January 25th, right? They stopped before December 25th, and they're still not in session. I can say a number of shluchim have told me, well, I'd love you to come, but there's no students yet. And when are they going to finish? May. What? Are they ever there? Now, that's not including spring break, right? You have to time these trips. We've learned you have about a 4 or 5 week window where you can time these trips. Because before that, they're on their winter holiday. After that, they're on spring break. Then they come back, and there's a short little time, and then there's exams. There's almost no time you can go to college campuses because the students are barely there. Right? Okay, now I'm not picking on maybe I am picking on the students in college campuses. It's not the students' fault, right? The university. I mean, the best job in the world is being a college professor. My goodness gracious me. Work about 3 days a week for 5.5 months a year. Okay, they have to publish. Yeah, right. This lady who's the president of Harvard has been working there, I think, for 26 years. She's published 11 papers, and they were plagiarized. There are 50 instances of plagiarism in her 11 papers. So, it's a good life, and I'm sure she's not underpaid. So, she's paid less now, Baruch Hashem. Okay. So, Mesiras Nefesh is a very interesting thing. A person can express Mesiras Nefesh for a certain period of time. And that Mesiras Nefesh does not necessarily affect Koiches HaGiluyim. Now, we have to figure out how that works. What does that mean it doesn't affect Koiches HaGiluyim? It doesn't affect their conscious powers. Their intellect and their emotions haven't changed. But wait a minute. In their intellect and in their emotions, there is a revelation of Etzem and Neshama for a certain period of time. But we see that it hasn't brought about a long-lasting change because when there's no need for Mesiras Nefesh, they're not necessarily acting in the same way. They don't seem as connected. Okay, so I was going to explain the difference between that and Kosis Lamor. What's the difference? The difference is going to be relative to the Koiches HaGiluyim. To put it simply, before we see it inside, the level of Mesiras Nefesh is that the Etzem and the Neshama, so to speak, comes down and is revealed in the conscious reality of that Jew, so that he or she is Meser Nefesh for a certain period of time while there is that revelation of Etzem and the Neshama in their Koiches HaGiluyim. It's revealed in their Koiches HaGiluyim. Their conscious reality is they are willing to give up their life for the Eibishter, and they are acting that way. B'feil. It's not conceptual. It's not theological. It's reality. Oh. That's one level. Etzem has come down to be clothed, so to speak, in Koiches HaGiluyim. The level of Kasis Lamar we're going to see is not so much that the Etzem and the Neshama has come down, but that the person has elevated their Kirchus Giluyim up to a level that they're proper Kalim for Etzem and Neshama. They've changed their conscious reality, so then that aspect of Etzem and Neshama has now become part and parcel of their conscious reality. It's not being imposed upon it or expressed through it. It's become that. That's the second level. That's Etzem. That's Kasis Lamar, which is a much higher level, and that's the Rav Mendels of the world. When Rav Mendel got out of Russia, he's exactly the same as he was when he was in Russia. There was no difference whatsoever. As a matter of fact, when Mendel was being interrogated by the Russians, so they said, "You're a traitor. You're smuggling." Why was Mendel put in jail? After the war, Mendel was part of an effort. There were Yidden in Samarkand, Tashkent, in Eastern Soviet Union, which was less draconian than, it was just far away from the powers that be. So it was a little less draconian over there. So they were smuggling people out. There was a lot of hefkeris, right? The borders of Russia with Eastern Europe were basically open. I mean, it was all hefker after the war. It took a while to organize things. So they were smuggling people out of Russia through Poland into France, into Germany. Germany was a mess. Right, into France and Germany, and then getting them to the West. Right? And one of the things he was doing was he was hijacking trains. These Hasidim over there were hijacking Russian trains and taking them over the border. They were forging passports. They were doing all sorts of wonderful stuff. Right? So actually, there's a famous Kaplan family. That's not our family, right? The label Kaplan all of a sudden was one of the head shluchim in Sfas. There's a Mayor Kaplan, his son, who's a shliach in Victoria, British Columbia. Right? So there's Kaplans all over Israel. There's Kaplans in Montreal. So those Kaplans, they're not Kaplans. They were actually Kosovitsky in Russia. They were in Samarkand and they got out. How'd they get out? Because I don't understand how the whole family got out with one passport. But a whole bunch of people, a bunch of brothers got out on a passport of a Jew who had died, and his last name was Kaplan. So they all got to the West as Kaplan. So they just kept Kaplan. They're really Kosovitsky, right? They're not real Kaplans. Everybody always asks, are you related? Right? Because they're a well-known family. No, we're not related. Why? Well, they're not Kaplan. We weren't Kaplan, right? They were Kosovitsky. A real Kaplan is usually a Kohen. Someone with the real last name Kaplan is really a Kohen, usually. We had a student here, Yanai Kaplan from Vancouver, a Kohen, right? Probably from the word chaplain, Kaplan. My father, this is just an interesting little tidbit of information. My grandfather got out in 1903. His name was Koppelson. They changed it to Kaplan at the border. His brother got out and they changed his name to Chaplain, not Kaplan. Okay. My father, growing up in the 20s and 30s in North America, had a first cousin named Charlie Chaplin. Now, he wasn't the real Charlie Chaplin, but can you imagine walking around with the name Charlie Chaplin in those days, right? Like that's, I don't know, find the most famous person in the world right now, and that's the guy's name, So, I mean, that's quite a name. I mean, 20 years ago, probably Michael Jordan was as known as anybody else on earth. Okay, so this guy goes up with his passport. Hi, I'm Michael Jordan. No, you're not. Well, I am, but I'm not. Right? So his name was Charlie Chaplin. Okay. So that's what Mendel was doing, was forging passports and getting people out. So how did he end up in Siberia? He ended up in Siberia because he always said it was the happiest time of his life because he was there because of his Ahavas Yisrael, because there was a group of people who were hijacking a train and one of them was late. So Mendel said, I'll wait for him. You guys go and I'll wait for him. And Mendel and him were caught. Well, if he'd gotten on the train, he wouldn't have been caught. So he went to Siberia. When Mendel got out of Russia, he was exactly the same. When they interrogated him, they told him that you're a traitor to the motherland because you're trying to get people out of Russia. And his answer to them was, this is what he said to the interrogators. No, you don't understand. You don't understand at all. I'm not taking them out of Russia. I'm taking them to where they can see the Rebbe. If the Rebbe were in Russia, I'd be smuggling people into Russia. That's what he told them. Right? And they looked at him, what is this creature? Who is this guy? And when he came out of Russia, he still looked like a Russian. He had the cap, he wore the big high boots. Often you see him with this heavy overcoat, I mean, not all the time, obviously, but Kfar Chabad in the summer with this Russian coat. He looked like he was still walking around somewhere in summer camp. That's just the way he was. So he was a Kosis Lamar Yid. But there were Mesiras Nefesh Yidden, right? Shuls full of Russians. Now it's harder to find them because it's been a long time. It's been already 30 years plus the Russia's open, so it's at 35 years, 1989, 1990. But for years and years, you go to the Russian shuls in LA and in Brooklyn, etc., and there'd be these old Russians. Some of these guys were Mesiras Nefesh to keep Yiddishkeit in Russia. Unbelievable. You never know. Why? Because it was revealed, so to speak, through their Keiches HaGiluyim, but it didn't affect their Keiches HaGiluyim. It didn't affect their consciousness. So when there was no more need, okay, they went back to who they were. So we've seen that before, right? That's the effect of a revelation from above. So Rebbe says, like we see. The Rebbe used to rail about this in Farbrengen. The Rebbe used to scream at the Russians. Right? How can it possibly be you're Mesiras Nefesh there and now you're just, okay, maybe learn some Chassidus for davening and you daven, but where's the fire? Where's the passion? It's not so recognizable. Kolkach. It does, mitigate this a little bit. It's not kolkach, so completely revealed. The fact that they stood in a tenu of Mesiras Nefesh for a number of years, it illuminated in them the revelation of the essence of their soul, which is beyond Keiches HaGiluyim, and it wasn't brought about al yedei zeh shinuri b'keiches hagiluyim atzmam. His consciousness didn't change. His consciousness was a kli for the revelation of this incredible power. So to speak, Etzem and Neshama came down and roosted in his conscious reality. But it's not that his conscious reality was elevated up to a state of Mesiras Nefesh. It was the situation. Right? The situation brought about a reality where I have no choice. What am I going to do? What am I going to stop keeping Shabbos? No, because I'm not going to stop keeping Shabbos. Mesiras Nefesh. Okay, and what does Shabbos look like in LA? It's not a Shabbos of Mesiras Nefesh. Doesn't have to be. That doesn't mean they're not superheroes. They're amazing. But it's such an incredible description of what's happening to them. The brackets. What did we learn before? Well, the reason Etzem and Neshama can be revealed in my consciousness is because it's the Etzem of my consciousness. It's the essence of my conscious reality also. It's really who I am. Right? We learned in Pada B'Shalom Tafshin Chaf Beis, the Maimer we just finished before we started this Maimer. So we learned that the Rebbe said an amazing thing. How do you want to touch that? So you can touch that on different levels. You can touch that obviously by virtue of what the Rebbe is describing now, a complete and total revelation of that level of your neshama in your conscious reality. There's another level the Rebbe said. How can you reach a state of Pada B'Shalom? How can you reach a state where your Yiddishkeit is calm? And it's not like this terrible battle against these forces of evil and forces of darkness, by simply realizing, being misbeinen in the fact, contemplating seriously the fact that you have an Etzem and Neshama, that there is a level of you that is essentially connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And then to make the achlata that your behavior is going to express that aspect of you. You're not feeling it in any way, shape, or form, but you're aware that that's who you really are. Right? That's a Yid, right? Famous story of the Tzemach Tzedek. I've told it so many times. Philosopher. They always had this feeling that he was a friend of the Tzemach Tzedek. He's someone he had conversations with regularly. I'm not sure whether that's true, but I always got the feeling from the different stories that Tzemach Tzedek. So he said that he can prove to the Tzemach Tzedek that God's not all powerful. He's not omnipotent. He's not kol yochel. How did he want to prove it? What can't God do? He said something fascinating. That whole, and excuse me for being pejorative, but that stupid thing that they call Anselm's tautology, can God create a rock he can't pick up? So that's just stupid. Yes, he can create the rock, and yes, he can pick it up. Deal with it. That's just putting God in these little boxes that he doesn't fit in. The whole idea that anybody would even think that's a question. It's just a stupid question. But it's coming from a place of complete lack of understanding of what it means there's a being called God. Okay, fine. But he asked a better question. I'll show you that God's not all powerful. Why? He can't create another God. Whoa, that's a really interesting question. That is really, because if he does, then he's not God, right? Because there's one of the most essential expressions of God is he's one and Yochid, the only, right? That's very important. So, Samak said, I don't know whether he batted an eye. What did he say? He didn't bat an eye, right? So I don't know whether he batted an eye or not. I would assume not. But the Tzemach Tzedek gave an amazing answer. So this guy said, I'll show you that God's not omnipotent because he can't create another God. The Tzemach Tzedek said, he did. It's called a Jew. What's a Jew? He's a piece of the Eibishter clothed in a physical body. That's a Yid. That's who we really are. Whoa. You mean this Torah and mitzvah stuff isn't just all about having a little meaning and order in my life? Well, it has that too. It's a little deeper than that. It's an expression of who I really am. Whoa. So that's etzem and neshama. That's what it means there's an etzem and neshama, right? So Yiddishkeit takes upon itself a whole new look, right? There's a famous story of the Rebbe Rashab and his brother, the Razah, his older brother of Zalman Aron. So if your father was the Lubavitcher Rebbe and your grandfather was the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and they remembered both. They were alive during the time of the Tzemach Tzedek, obviously their Rebbe, their father, the Rebbe Manash. So what game would you play as a kid? Well, they used to evidently play Rebbe Chassid, right? I mean, we'd pay cops and robbers and they'd play Rebbe Chassid. So once the Razah asked the Rebbe Rashab if he wanted, Rebbe Rashab was younger, if he wanted to play Rebbe Chassid. So he said, no. He said, why not? He said, well, to be the Rebbe, I don't know how to be the Rebbe. I don't know how to be the Rebbe. I don't know what a Rebbe is, so I can't play the Rebbe because I wouldn't know how you do that. Then he said an amazing line. He was just a kid. He was probably 9, 8. Then he said, you have to say it in Yiddish, it sounds better, and then I'll translate. Zu sein a chassid is nit kein Spiel. What's a Spiel? Game. Zu sein a chassid, to be a chassid, isn't a game. You don't play at it. Whoa. It's not a game, being a chassid. It's like, whoa, you're trying to encounter absolute reality. Now that's Bechlal, every Yid, okay, but Chassidus just opens us up to that, which is so amazing. Right? It's like an unbelievable thing. And yet we're still stuck down here tasting pudding. It's not like we don't taste pudding. It's not good pudding. Right? They don't give us pudding anymore. They used to put out the chocolate pudding. Yeah. So you could do iskafia and not eat it. It's good. You have to do something in life, right? What did you do today? I did some iskafia. Oh, good. I didn't eat the chocolate pudding at breakfast, didn't I? What did you eat? That was also iskafia. I ate the shakshuka. You ate the shakshuka? Whoa, you're a Chassidish Yid. Wow. Yeah, but I turn it over, so I don't have to eat the rubber part. I just turn it over. You eat up until the rubber part. Right? They don't know what we're talking about in Bangladesh. I just want to know. Okay. So the Rebbe is saying an amazing thing. There's a level of Mesiras Nefesh where a Jew can come to a point where their behavior is absolutely astounding. And what's happening? The essence of their being, which is essentially connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, so they are powerfully connected to truth. That aspect of them is being revealed in their conscious behavior. Right? Unbelievable. Now, usually that's a function of the fact that an external event happens that forces the Jew to choose either to stay connected or give up the ghost. And that's where the Jew will stay connected. That's where the Mesiras Nefesh comes in. Right? And to a certain degree, again, you're seeing that in this country now in a really quite astounding way, especially the soldiers in the South, but not just the soldiers in the South. Right? That there's just been an awakening by virtue of the fact that the options are absolutely clear. Right? Us or them. Oh, okay. Then I'm going to be Mesiras Nefesh to make sure it's us. But then what's us? Oh, people are being forced to deal with that also in their lives. So what does it mean to be us? How am I any different than them? Oh, tefillin? Oh, okay. Our daughter-in-law to be. So I don't know what happened at the end of the story because once they find out how expensive it is, who knows what happened. But there's shluchim in a neighborhood in South Yerushalayim called Har Choma. It's like the most southernmost neighborhood in Yerushalayim, southeast. Relatively new neighborhood, 20 years it started. So our daughter-in-law to be, she's going to turn 20 before the wedding, Baruch Hashem. So she gave a shiur to some of the women of the neighborhood, and evidently 2 or 3 women in the neighborhood decided they're going to start wearing a shaitel. They start wearing it a week, cover their hair. Now, I don't know whether they found out how expensive that is, but okay. Why? Same thing that's going on all over the country that we talked about it yesterday, the day before, right? That guys who are coming to put on tefillin, it's now, it used to be, okay, Baruch Hashem, guys put on tefillin, and you're happy they put on tefillin. Now, almost every day, everybody has a story that someone came to put on tefillin and asked, said, I want to buy tefillin, right? I mean, that's just like, that's the new thing is now buying tefillin. Because they want it every day, right? In irony of ironies, the new president of Harvard, who is he? A Jewish doctor who puts on tefillin every day. That's his name. Yeah. Puts on tefillin every day. Okay, I don't know whether that's good for us or bad for us after what just happened, but whatever. So Baruch Hashem, there can certain external events bring about an awakening of what it means to be who I am. Oh, okay. That doesn't relate to the president of Harvard. He was putting on tefillin a long time ago. Okay, so that's what the Rebbe is describing here. It's not that there's a change in my intellect and in my emotions. They haven't changed, but they're becoming the kelim for a more powerful expression of my connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, over time, they might change if I work at it, but that's work from below. That's not so much a function of the external situation. The external situation will bring about a temporary awakening, like inspiration in general. Inspiration is always temporary. That's why, we don't pay a lot of attention to inspiration. Not really interested in inspiration. Inspiration is very, very nice, okay, Beseder, but if inspiration doesn't produce an investment to invest that inspiration in certain behavior patterns, so then the inspiration is basically a waste of time. It's very nice, warm, fuzzy feeling for a while, but if it disappears, it disappears. So nothing happened. End up in exactly the same place. So the Rebbe says, there's a shinu b'keches giluyim. Why? Well, as we explained before, that etzem and neshama is the etzem of the neshama. Let's read the brackets again. The zesha etzem and neshama or etzem gam b'keches giluyim. Etzem and neshama is the essence of also the revealed powers of the soul. Therefore, it can be revealed through them. And we said that was the difference between mazli chazi and etzem. Who she'etzem and neshama who are etzem shalahem. It's their essence. What does that mean? But it's not the revealed reality. Ve'ein ze shayach linyonam, and this is not relevant to their reality, the reality of keiches hagiluyim atzmam, these actual revealed powers, seichel and midas, intellect and emotions, latzir shalem, the description of them, the true nature of them. So to speak, it acts through them, but it doesn't become them. But what's the other option? Vagilui, and this is the Rav Mendels of the world. Vagilui, that's a neshama b'zeshu nishbar v'nidke mizeshu nimsa b'galus. And the revelation of Etzem neshama that produces the fact that the Jew is broken by virtue of the fact that he's found in Golus, not this situation in Golus, but the essential existence of Golus. Hu shegam keiches hagiluyim shaloi. That is that his revealed powers, his seichel, his intellect, his conscious reality, hatzir the keiches hagiluyim, the actual description of the reality of this conscious part of him are like one with the Etzem. He's become a Yid. He's what the Rebbe refers to as a Mesiras Nefesh Dika Yid. He's living Mesiras Nefesh. He's not expressing Mesiras Nefesh. That's not, I mean, it almost turns expressing into Mesiras Nefesh as Kleinegeld here, but no, that's an amazing thing. It's incredible. But there's even higher, there's something even higher. Now the Rebbe is just explaining the difference between those two. So Kosis Lamar is what it's really all about. Now, interesting enough, that's the avoid of our generation. Right? The Rebbe's going to say it very, very clearly later, but the Frierdiker Rebbe's generation was all about Mesiras Nefesh. Our Rebbe's generation is all about Kosis Lamar. Kolis is good. Our Mesiras Nefesh now is to stay frum with the shiras, right? Not to drown in a sea of whipped cream. Whereas the avoid of the generations before was to stay frum even though they had nothing to eat and there were people beating them up and they were just unbelievable Mesiras Nefesh to stay frum. It's just, these people were incredible. Passion incredible. Right? But interesting enough, so our generation is all about Kosis Lamar, is Ad Mosai, is the fact that albeit life is very, very good. Baruch Hashem. Gashmius, Ruchnius. Pretty good. It's not perfect. It's still in Golus, but it's pretty good. As Golus goes, this is pretty good. Right? Okay. And yet what? So still the Yid is broken. Broken by what? Broken by the fact that the Eibishter isn't revealed. Broken by the fact that he's not B'shulchan Aviyam. He's not at the table of his father. He's still eating out in the yard. He hasn't gone inside the dining room. The dining room is all the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael with the Eibishter, with the Beis Hamikdash, v'chulei. So that breaks him. Not that he's depressed, chos v'sholom. He's not depressed. Maybe it's Hashem b'simcha, but he's driven by the fact that Mashiach isn't revealed, by the fact that there's some place in the world where the Eibishter isn't revealed. That bothers him. Right? That's our generation's avodah. Let's finish the paragraph, then we'll have to do footnote 56. We'll do that Sunday morning.
We're back on Motzei Shabbos.
Right. No, I know. Sunday is a regular day of learning. They're not sure about Sunday morning Chassidus. I would just as soon take Sunday, let it be optional. You guys can come and do review. I'm also going to be coming down from Tzfas, so I'm just as happy. That's usually a rather late reality. So if Sunday morning we'll do review, then we learn until Wednesday. Thursday's off, or Thursday's the last day? Anybody know?
Thursday's off.
Okay, so we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to finish the Maimer. It's no problem, we can finish the Maimer. Okay, so I just want to make sure we can finish. So Sunday will be a review day, okay? And then we'll finish the Maimer in the next couple of days. The next time we meet Monday, the first thing we'll do is footnote 56. So let's just finish this now, and then we'll stop. All right? והגילוי לעצם הנשמה כמשהו נשבר ונתגלה מזה שהוא נמצא בגלוס הוא שגם ככס הגילויים שלו יציעו את הככס הגילויים. הם כמי אחד עם העצם. 4 lines up. ויש לומר, זה שעצם הנשמה, that which the essence of the soul. והציעו את הככס, and the reality. Tzir means tzir is the form of something, the description of it. Okay, so in this context, we're talking about the actual reality of the keches. Heim dugma shnei inyanim. These are two different things. So then that what? Hu lafi. That is really interesting what the Rebbe says here. It's actually similar to a sicha in next week's parsha. Hu lafi shagam etzem and ve'era. Hu lafi shagam etzem and neshama. He mugderes begeder. It's described in a particular way. A geder is a fence. Right? Lahagdir means to describe something, to define it. So when you define something, so that also means to a certain degree it's limited by virtue of the fact that it's defined in a certain way, and therefore it's not something else. Oh, so there's a level of etzem, which the Rebbe actually says, even though this is a wild thing to say about etzem, okay, but it's not the first time the Rebbe said this, right? And we'll see why. There's a level of etzem that's mugdar begetter. This is the essence of the soul. Now you'll basically talk about, in this context, talk about yechida shebenefesh. It's one of the 5 levels of the soul. Vageder shala, and what is the description, the definition of this level of soul? He is l'mayla mitzir dekeches, beyond conscious reality, beyond the conscious reality of the powers of the soul, or the revealed reality of the powers of the soul. Aval, mitzad, etzem and neshama mitzad, the essence of the soul, kameshin mushreshes ba'atzmos, as it is sourced in atzmos. In other words, there's basically 2 different levels of etzem. The Rebbe is saying there's the level of etzem, which is one of the 5 levels of soul, and there's a certain aspect of reality. Then there's a level of etzem that is just that level of the soul that's completely and totally connected to the Eibishter beyond any description. Hapshitus the neshama, the simplicity of this level of the neshama, that it can't be defined in any way, shape, or form. Not defined as transcendent, not defined as immanent. It's beyond both. So therefore it can be expressed in the immanent as itself. And that's the level of Kasis Lamar. Vatzir the Keiches Shalah, the simple reality of the neshama, the essential existence of the neshama, and the reality of the powers of the neshama, hem kulachad, they're completely one. Is there a sitter here? Thank you very much. Happens to be very interesting today when you're davening. When you're davening, well, the Max would be fine also, but it doesn't matter. When you're davening Shachris today, right after Baruch, you're going to say the Baruch, then you say, Meir Lars, Yidarim Eleh Barach, Tuve Mechaj Kol Yitamim Meisa Bereshis, Marabu Masecha, Hashem Kulu Mechach Masis, Malatz Kinyanecha, HaMelech HaMreimam, Mavad Mi'azim, Shavu, Yefeh, Yimei Seilu. Then you're going to say, Elokei Olam, Barachamecha harabim, with your great mercy, Rachem Aleinu, Adonu Zeinu, Sur Mizgabeinu, Magen Yishenu, Mizgab Badeinu. Those 5 levels. What are those 5 levels? Those 5 levels correspond to the 5 levels which he talked about at the beginning of Baruch Shamar. What are those 5 levels? Baruch Shamar V'Hayelam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Emer V'Esed, Baruch Gezim Kaim, Baruch Esed Bereshis. Those 5 levels. What are those 5 levels? So the Rebbe Shab explains that those 5 levels are, from top to bottom, the Ratzon Pashut Livrei, the simple desire to create. All of a sudden, the Eibishter has a desire. I want to create something. I want there to be a world. There's then what's called the Hashara, the estimation, so to speak, how to do that. Right? Baruch Shamar, let's go back to Baruch Shamar. Baruch Shamar V'Hayelam. That's what's in a Pashut Livrei, the simple desire to create. Baruch Hu, Baruch is to be Mamshich. That's the Hashara of the estimation of, so to speak, how to do that. Baruch Omer Ve'eseh, that's what's called Machshava Keduma Da'ak. That's the general desire for the four worlds, Atzilus, Bri, Yetzirah, Asiyah. Right? It's called Ak, Adam Kadmon. Baruch Gezer Kayim, we take the Omer into Gezer, take the Machshava, Omer, saying to himself, so to speak, Gezer into Dibur, bringing it down. That's taking the Machshava K'dumadak and revealing it in Dibur, revealing it in speech being the revelation of thought, which will be the source of Baruch Oiseh Bereshis, the source of Bereshis, which is Keser of Atzilus. Those are the 5 levels. Ratzon and Pashat Livrei, the Hashara, the estimation, then Ak, the Machshava of Ak, the speech, bringing that down to a lower level, which is the source of Keser of Atzilus, and then worlds. Okay. Here too, interesting enough, 5 levels. Rachem Aleinu, Adon Yizenu, Tzur Mizgabenu, Magen Yishenu, Mizgabnef. Same 5 levels. You're saying after. But you say something before. The Rebbe Shab explains all of this. Elokei Elam, Barachem Echad Rabbi. The Rebbe Shab explains something similar to what we just saw. So to speak, 2 different levels in Atzmos. Elokei Elam, it seems to me it's Elokei Elam, because Elam is the world, and yet you're talking about a level of the Eibush that's completely beyond the world. Elokei Elam, there's nothing to say about the Eibush. There's no description, just God. Elokei Elam, just God. There's no description. What's that? That's the essence of the Eibush himself, Mamish. There's no description beyond any Geder. Then what? But then there's a level of Atzmos, which is the luminary. I mean, there's a level of the Eibush himself. Okay. But once the, so to speak, there's also to speak when you're talking about Atzmos, so to speak, once the Eibush makes, again, it's also to speak, the Eibush, so to speak, up there in Atzmos, decides, Dir B'Tachtenim, that would be a cool thing. Okay. So then what happens? Then Atzmos is now, so to speak, transformed also into a luminary. Not exactly a source of light, but it acts as a source of light, meaning what's going to come out of that is light. Oh, so that's a second level of Atzmos. Meaning it's the level of Atzmos which is relative to everything below it. It's still completely transcendent of it. It's still the etzem of it, but it's the etzem of something else, so to speak. It's going to be worlds. It's going to be levels of Elokus. Where do they all come from? They come from Atzmos. Okay, so there's those 2 levels of Atzmos. There's Atzmos, so to speak. I remember once, 58 from his time, he said, Atzmos Neto. And he started to laugh. Like Atzmos Neto, Atzmos itself. The Eibishter himself, impossible to define beyond any notion whatsoever of definition or limited expression. But then there's a level of that same level of Eibishter. It's mamish the Eibishter. There's no or, there's no revealed state. It's still the essence of him, but it's the essence of him that's going to become, so to speak, the source of everything else. Because there's now going to be other stuff, so to speak. It's not really anything else. Oh. So that's that. When you're saying Elokei Elam, Barachem Echad Rabbi, we're talking about those 2 different levels of Atzmos. And then what's the first state of the other? The Ratzon of Pashat Livrei. That desire to create. Okay. So that's what the Rebbe is talking about here. There's a level of Etzem that is the transcendent level of soul. And then there's a level of Etzem that's transcendent of that. It's just that aspect of reality called a soul that is completely and totally one with the essence of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Can't be described. Can't be described in terms of anything else. Can't be described as the source of anything else. Can't be described in terms of anything else. It just is. But then there's a level of Etzem in the Neshama which can be the Etzem of all the other levels of Neshama. Right? So it's defined. It's not exactly defined, but it's defined within the context of the rest of the Neshama. So you might be able to say that basically the Rebbe is talking about Yechida Sheba Nefesh and then Mamish Etzem. So there's the name of Yechida, and what's a name? A name by definition is relating to something outside of itself. I only need a name, so you can call me. I don't need a name inside myself, right? Even though the name is incredibly powerfully, this week's Parsha, incredibly powerfully connected to you and me. Because if Chas v'Shalom Reuven passes out, if you go, Reuven, he might wake up because it's touching a very, very deep place in him. But interestingly enough, you'll only see that when he passed out. So that's Shmais. Shmais is really all about Golos. Whereas what are the when it's Eli Shmais B'nai Yisrael, these are the names of the Jewish people that went to Mitzrayim. So it's really rather fascinating. The idea of Shmais, Chazal talk about Shmais. These are the names of the people that before these people passed away, there was no Golos. As long as these people were alive, there's Golos. The idea of calling them by name means the Eibishter loves them. The Chiba, Rashi mentions that, the dearness. Then each name is shaykh to the Inyan of Geula. Chazal explains. So the name of the parsha is all about Geula. The whole parsha is about Golos, and yet the name of the parsha is all about Geula. Shmais. Yet the whole parsha is Golos. It's the only parsha that's all Golos, complete Golos. The only parsha in the whole Torah that's all Golos. The Jewish people are in Golos. Ve'ever, we start getting out. So what's that? That's on one hand, the name has nothing to do with me. I don't need one. On the other hand, it's unbelievably powerfully connected to my etzim. Okay. So there's the etzim itself, and then there's, so to speak, the name of the etzim. That's Yechida. So that's what the Rebbe's talking about here. Let's just read the next two lines and stop. Val Pizeh Yesh Lemer, the bechinas of Ma'or the Neshama, the level of Ma'or the Neshama. The Rebbe's still calling both of them Ma'or the Neshama. Kosis Lamar. Shemizgala, that's revealed al Yidei Mesiras Nefesh. He etzem and neshama, that's the etzem and neshama, kameshi mugderes, as it's defined, be'inyan hapshitus, in the fact that it is transcendent, shalamayla mitzur dekeches, of the revealed neshama. Ubechinas of ma'ar de neshama, and the level of ma'ar de neshama, etzem and neshama, shemizgalas al yedei inyan kosis, that's revealed by virtue of the fact that the Jew is crushed, mizesh and imsoim begolas, that second level, he gilui, etzem neshama kameshi mushreshes ba'atzmus. That's the essence of the soul as it's rooted in the essence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, those two different levels. So very, very, very kedai to learn this again yourselves and get it straight. Because the Rebbe just said an unbelievable thing, right? If God is of any interest to us. If it's not, and it's just a spiel, say. But if this God stuff really bothers us, we have to understand this. We have to get this, because this is who we are and who He is and what it's all about, the two of us dancing together. It's just unbelievable what the Rebbe is saying. And it's going to be the difference between the previous generation and our generation. Our generation is all Kosis Lamar, and that's Geula. That's the ultimate in the Geula. What brings about the most powerful revelation of Etzem? Kosis Lamar, being crushed by the essential existence of Golos. Oh, so what's that going to reveal? The Etzem of the Eibishter. It's going to bring about the revelation of the Eibishter and Elam Hazak. That's our Veda. So the Rebbe's been shepherding us about for 70 years. We heard his voice for 40 plus, telling us this over and over and over and over and over and over again. Don't be satisfied with Gullus. It's not where a Jew is supposed to be. It's not what life is about. Mashiach or bust. You got a l'chaim? Or give me l'chaim? No. I mean, yeah, to say the l'chaim, but the Rebbe wants our kishkas. Definitely wants our kishkas. But it's not like we're, what we're doing here is, you can take it or leave it. Basically, we are responsible for completely and totally transforming reality. We are the generation that has the power to do that. And I do think most people thought in 1991, 1992 that it's going to happen in a rather, it's just going to happen. It's a boom. The Rebbe is just, it's just going to happen. We're all going to go to Gullus, go to Geula, get out of the Gullus and go to the Geula, and it's going to be amazing, incredible. Okay. So it turns out that bringing about the end of the history of the world is a little more complicated than we thought. I don't know whether that's necessarily surprising. But, okay, I think everybody was surprised because it looked like it was going to just be so simple and just like putting in another load of laundry. Like It's just, okay, I know how to do that. Just keep doing this and it's all going to happen. And then all of a sudden the Rebbe says, it's not up to me. It's up to you. You're going to have to do it. I've done what I could do. Now you have to do it. And when the Rebbe says, I've done what I could do, the Rebbe said, I've done what I can do to arouse in you a desire to bring Mashiach. The Rebbe does not say, I've done what I can do to bring Mashiach. He doesn't say that. He says, I've done what I can do to arouse in you a desire for Mashiach. Now it's up to you. Right? If you look at Sikha, the Rebbe says, now it's up to you. We didn't take the Rebbe seriously. I mean, in retrospect, obviously, because people started doing more stuff. There's no question that all sorts of stuff started happening, and there was a big tumult in there. It's not that things weren't getting done. People were trying to do things and taking it very, very seriously. But Lamaisa, we still basically thought, okay, but the Rebbe's just going to go, and it's all going to happen. And then he said, I'll see you later when you get it done. Whoa. That's where we are now. We thought it was all going to come from him. It is all coming from him. Say it is Moshe Rabbeinu, Ryan, and okay, say that, but it's all our religion. It has to penetrate into us. That's what the Rebbe says. That's Kassis Lamar. It's to become who we are. Not, there's like this incredible power from above that's acting through us. No. Even if that power from above is actually me. Okay. But we're going to do it.